in a community theater like this, you have a certain advantage over the professional actors on the screen that you see because the audience is seeing you right there in front of them. There's an actual personal connection there.
I kind of miss being on stage. It was fun just to be with friends and act and whatnot. And I kind of wish that I could do that again. And my aunt was like, well, isn't there a community theater that you could be a part of? I pulled up Civic's website and there was auditions in 2 weeks. And I am a very analytically minded person as well. Being behind the scenes really is where I feel I thrive. And it really was not until Civic that I kind of found that.
It's the Civic Theatre Show, presented by Civic Theatre of Greater Lafayette, Indiana. I'm Jono. This month, our theater is presenting A Christmas Carol, the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. In the 182 years since Charles Dickens first published his novella, there have been countless versions, films, TV specials, stage plays, even a musical. But have you ever seen A Christmas Carol as a 1945 live radio broadcast? This adaptation brings surprises that make the old story new again. Director Trey Gordon takes us on a journey from performing for his family at 4 years old to directing his first main stage show at Civic today. And if your love of science makes you think that you wouldn't be good in the creative arts, stage manager M. Miller makes it clear that an analytical mind can be perfect for theater behind the scenes. With M. Miller, here's Trey Gordon.
You could take every gift and I would still be good. Oh, my Christmas just ain't Christmas without you. La-da-da-da-da-da.
I almost don't remember a time when I wasn't in some capacity doing theatrical stuff, even if it was just like school plays when I was in elementary school and doing that thing where you, whenever there are relatives over, you just run out and announce you're going to do a show. Yeah, there are some pictures of me doing that when I'm like 5-6 years old. I don't remember them, but yeah.
This very room that we're sitting in has become that space for my 10 and 8-year-old great niece and nephew. They've done, I don't know, a couple dozen different concerts for me and other family members.
Oh, yeah. That's adorable.
I'm hip to that. Was that you when you were 4, 5, 6?
That was absolutely me when I was 4, 5, 6. It was my daughter, too. My daughter, Addie, one of my favorite, because my graduate degree is in English. And I took great pride in one day, Addie comes out and says she's going to do a show for me. And she says, Papa, you sit here. You're the audience. I was like, oh, she's a genius.
Playwright in the making.
She worked all that out on her own.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it was the wrong conclusion,
audience,
but it was a very intelligent conclusion.
Yes.
When did you go from doing those performances for family to knowing that you actually wanted to study it for your undergrad?
Oh, this will show you the degree to which I'm blown by the winds of fate. I did it all through high school and thought that I was going to be, though, I wanted to study biology in college.
Those are some very disparate interests.
Yeah.
That's good. That makes you a well-rounded person.
It also makes me kind of a mess. But when I went into college, I wanted to major in biology. And during my senior year, I ended up being awarded a scholarship for theater for the local junior college, which I was going to go to first. And so I double majored because I had to major in theater to get the scholarship. So I double majored in theater and biology, and the biology didn't stick.
Or it wasn't one of these backup things. Like, did your parents say, okay, theater, acting, drama, that's difficult to make a career in. So why don't you get a quote unquote serious degree?
Yeah, there was some of that. I think by the time I was actually in college, they'd pretty much just given up on any hope that I was going to do anything like that. Because
given up hope that you're going to have a successful career.
Right, yeah. In high school, when people would ask me what I wanted to do with my biology/zoology degree, I still wasn't sure. I would often say I want to be a park ranger. And because I did, and kind of regret that I never was. I think it may be the coolest job in the world. But my parents sort of sat me down and said, they don't paid a mint. You're going to probably want more money than that. Anyway, they talked me out of doing it. So I did theater instead. Yeah.
And what about you? When was your earliest interest in theater? When was that kindled?
I've always been a singer. As long as I can remember, I grew up in the Mennonite church, so I'm very used to the blue hymnal, 4-part harmony, a cappella. That's how I started singing, really,
Nice.
was at church. And so I've always had music in my life, which is really what brought me to theater. 4th grade, I think, was the first time I was properly on stage. We did Schoolhouse Rock at my elementary school, and I had one of the lead roles in it. So I sang Conjunction Junction, and I'm Just a Bill, I think is the name of the song. So
Schoolhouse Rock, excellent.
Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock is really kind of my first foray into theater. But for me, it was really like, I want to be singing. I want to be on stage singing. And that was far more what it was than actual acting. But again, because I was so into music and so interested in being on the stage music-wise, I did theater throughout high school, so I was in a few musicals. I did a couple plays. One of my favorite plays now, actually, Arsenic and Old Lace. I was in that one as Elaine, which was just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that in high school. But then I got to college, and kind of same as Trey, I was actually in a biology degree for a bit.
Really?
I was doing, first I went into agronomy, and then I was more interested in genetics for plants, so I went into genetic engineering for plants, and then I was like, no, I don't even really care that much about the genetic engineering part. I really love fungi, so I went into botany. And this was all over the course of a couple years, and then I was in my 3rd year at Purdue, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. I like learning about it, but the idea of this as a career is just not for me, I think. So I ended up leaving Purdue, but I stuck around in the area, found myself a full-time job, was kind of established. And then I went out in 2021. I can remember the year because it was the year after COVID. I went out to watch one of my younger cousins in a musical at her high school. And I turned to my aunt in the audience and I was like, I kind of really miss doing this. I kind of miss being on stage. It was fun, just to be with friends and act and whatnot. And I kind of wish that I could do that again. And my aunt was like, well, isn't there a community theater that you could be a part of? And I was like, oh my gosh, why haven't I thought of that? Obviously, Lafayette, Indiana would have a community theater. And so on a whim, I Googled it. I pulled up Civic's website and there was auditions for La Cage aux Folles in 2 weeks. And I was like, you know what? Let's sign up and see what happens. And now I've been doing Civic ever since. So it was kind of stumbling into it for me. I really think that Civic is where I really got bit by the love of theater and the love of not just being on stage, but obviously I'm stage manager for Christmas Carol. This is not my first time stage managing. Being behind the scenes really is where I feel I thrive. And it really was not until Civic that I kind of found that.
Do you think you like the behind the scenes more than being on stage? You said you thrive at it, but...
Yeah, I actually kind of do. There's a certain anxiety and nervousness that comes with being on stage that, can be fun in the right roles. I loved being in Urinetown. That was incredible. Such a fantastic show to be on stage for. The vocals were so fun. And I really want to try a straight play eventually. I would really love to do that. But I really love seeing the show come together from an outside perspective almost. And I am a very analytically minded person as well. So something like stage managing has just been, I feel like I've kind of found my niche there because I can use that part of my brain to, help everything stay organized, help things run on time. Well, most of the time I can, use the skills in my brain that I thought were great for, the hard sciences and put that into a love of theater.
Oh, I love that. I haven't heard that applied to theater.
Yeah.
I love that. That analytical part that you get from hard science is applicable in what we do in community theater.
Absolutely it is, yeah.
Oh, it's so applicable.
Yeah.
When Raquel, our managing artistic director, asked me if I would do this show, I think my very first words for her after that were, "Can I have him for my stage manager?"
Excellent.
Because anyone who knows me well will tell you, I am not capable of keeping a ship like that on course. All by myself, it would just be, So I needed someone who was really good at this, and I had been in enough shows with him that I was like, oh, there's who I need.
And I think it was not before season reveal, but I hadn't been kind of asked to be a part of any of them yet, and I really wanted to stage manage again. So I actually emailed Raquel, I think after Maurice was done last season, and I was like, hey, just wanted to put my hat in the ring. If there are any shows that still need a stage manager, I'd love to be a part of it. And she's like, well, you know, there's the holiday show. Trey's directing that. And I was like, I will drop anything and everything for Trey Gordon. Like, please let me stage manage that show if Trey Gordon is our director. So it kind of worked out perfectly there.
So you've both had many roles in our theater. You've both started on our stage as, Em, you just told us about your first show, and you mentioned singing. And you have one of the most gorgeous singing voices that we have at our theater.
She
does.
So that's partly why I wanted to ask if you felt more at home off stage, like in the booth, stage managing or whatever your role might be. I hope that doesn't mean that you wouldn't want to come back on stage, because our audiences need to hear your singing voice again.
Yeah, they do.
Or in a regular dramatic role, either way. But Trey, before we get into directing, I wanted to explore your acting on our stage.
Okay.
Because when I think of you in comedies. I think of you especially in physical comedy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Some of the things that you do on stage without even speaking a word can get our entire audience and everyone in the booth and backstage howling with laughter. I'm thinking, for example, about your role in The Play That Goes Wrong.
I was also thinking of that role, yes.
There's a moment where your character, you've died, and you kind of fall off of the sofa, and some other characters put you on a stretcher to carry you up, but the stretcher rips. And this is if you don't know the show, the comedy is a play within a play about an acting troupe who's going around trying to do this serious dramatic show, but everything goes wrong during their performance, including the stretcher ripping that they're trying to carry you're out. And so your character decides that you need to go off stage while you're dead.
Right.
And I don't know if the script has directions for that, or if the director, who was the director? Was that Craig?
Craig Martin.
It was Craig.
Martin.
Yeah.
If Craig just said, okay, you need to figure out how to get off stage. Tell me about that process.
He pretty much just however you can get off stage. And initially when I did it, I did this thing where I stayed sort of planked on the floor, because I'm face down on the floor. And my arms are folded in front of my chest. I'm face down on the floor because they've rolled me off the couch onto my face. And I just sort of flexed my feet so that my toes were on the stage, and I pushed my elbows out so that my elbows were on the stage, and I just sort of walked myself out on my elbows and my tiptoes, still face down, which was hilarious, but every time I did it, I destroyed whatever pair of shoes I was wearing. Yes, the toe, because I'm sitting on the toes of the shoes, and they're dress shoes, right? So the soles kind of stick out, and so as I'd scoot along, I had to rip the soles off the shoes. So it wasn't working. So I had to think of something else. So that's how I ended up doing that, where I stuck my butt in the air and then rolled over.
Like a sandworm or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just flexing yourself off of stage on the floor, and then around through the door frame. And once or twice during performances, you'd miss the door frame because you're doing all this with your eyes closed, right?
Exactly, because I'm supposed to be dead.
And the audience is loving it, and we're breaking character up in the booth, trying to watch you doing this. How did you develop this gift for physical comedy?
Oh gosh, well, that's something I never actually gave any thought to. I guess it was just something I always did as a child. Even I was a cut up, and I just I guess I wasn't clever enough to make people laugh with my words, so I just did goofy physical things to crack people up. And I don't know, I've always been, people used to call me bouncy.
Were you the disruptively funny kid in class?
Actually, no. I was not a disruptive kid in class. I just was kind of a complete dork on the playground. Attention-seeking, geeky guy. I was a little too retiring to be trouble in class.
I guess I'm trying to explore, when do you feel that you noticed that you had a way, even if it wasn't with your words,
Sure,
a way to make people laugh?
a physical way. I guess the first time I remember thinking that this would be the way that I could maybe make a place for myself on stage was in college. I didn't realize until I was a young adult that What I had was a knack.
At least an example I can think of where you're just so comfortable with it. In the play that goes wrong, there was one of our rehearsals. We determined, okay, we're not going to let the platform fall. We just don't have like the technology for that. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to get you off of that platform without hurting you, without hurting anyone else, because it's not going to fall, but it says in the script you make it down to the floor somehow. And so you're standing up on the platform, and it was
This
Richie,
is a second-story platform,
second
basically.
story platform. Richie and I think Daniel were down on the floor, kind of standing there. I think it was Daniel. And you're standing up on the platform, and you're
Daniel
like, I don't
Condrey.
know, what if we just try this? And I'm expecting you to like talk through it, what you're about to do, and instead you just kind of fling yourself off the platform for them to catch you, and then you roll out of their arms. And I'm like, Trey, what? Why would you just go for it like that? And you're like, I don't know, I just knew it would work. And I was like, okay, all right.
Well, I imagine how Richie, Steven, and Daniel Condrey felt.
Yes.
But that's not always good, right? Sometimes I can be a little impulsive, and I just do things without really thinking them through. And that was one of those times. And fortunately, they are both very
Well,
smart
but time and
very
time
good at
again.
rolling with it, and they had my back, and they kept me from breaking my head open.
Yeah, time after time, at least in our theater, it shows that your instincts have been good.
Well-
At least it works for the performance.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I can't speak to what your instincts are like in your day job, but
You'll have to ask other people about that.
well, so you mentioned that you just kind of started exploring these things,
Yeah.
like in doing theater in college.
Yeah.
Do you think that, how is this kind of exploration of your talents, whatever they are, whether it's physical comedy or singing or what have you, at what age do you need to start exploring that to find your way into performance, whatever kind of performance is, whether it's choir or theater? I guess I'm trying to explore both of your thoughts on, is this something that do you feel that a lot of people have to start exploring this when they're younger, or can they also just discover it as an adult for the first time?
I think absolutely you can discover it as an adult for the first time. At least for me, like I said, singing has always been a part of my life, which is what led me to theater, but I never would have considered myself kind of on the techie side more than the performing side. And I keep getting, family telling me, oh, we want to see you on stage again. We want to see you on stage again. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be on stage again. But most of the time when I'm involved in the theater, I really want to be behind the scenes somewhere, whether that's, I want to learn how to light design. I want to learn how to sound design. I love stage managing. I love backstage managing. Play that goes wrong, I ran that thing like a machine.
Yeah, you did.
It was honestly one of the best experiences of my life, and I was still really new to it at that point. Play That Goes Wrong was my second main stage show, and I was backstage manager for that. I was assistant stage manager throughout the rehearsal process. So, I was, still in my 20s at that point, later 20s, and that was really the first time that I kind of stepped into a role like that and just really found that I loved it, and I felt like I was really good at it, and it worked really well for me. So I think absolutely, if it's something that you just have an interest in exploring, it doesn't have to be something that you're like, I've wanted to do this since I was a kid, or, oh, I've always known that I would be good at this. If you just try things, you never know what you're going to find that you're good at.
Yeah, fully agree. So, Civic, the motto is see yourself here, right? This is something that you even might be interested in. You should give it a try, because if you like it, you're going to really like it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that's okay.
Trey, did you do leadership roles in theater before coming to Civic Theatre? You mentioned like you did theater in college. Mm-hmm. Were you in leadership roles, directing, stage managing?
Not really. I did some directing in college because that was part of the degree plan, right? And I did do quite a bit of tech as well. I was fortunate to be in a program that it was relatively small and everyone was encouraged to try everything. Most people specialized in tech or acting, but I really kind of just did both. Mostly I acted, but probably a good solid third of what I did was lighting hangs and set construction, and I always just really enjoyed that stuff. I still do some of that stuff at Civic too. Before this, I had directed a couple of staged readings and for the 10-minute play festival, a couple of shorts. That's really all. I don't have what you would call an orderly mind. And
we're artists.
Yes.
I guess so. I'll use that excuse at least. So I usually avoid doing things where I feel like I'm going to have to be organized and be in charge of the success of other people's experiences. I always feel like I'm kind of teetering on the edge of failure when I do those things. And sometimes that can be exciting. Like, I've really enjoyed this process of directing this show, largely because I know Em's got my back and she'll catch me if I fall. Mm-hmm. And I can just do the fun stuff, at least in what passes as fun stuff inside the confines of my head. But so no, I would say that's not something I've really sought out. It was, leadership roles in theater.
Yeah, but you're there now. You mentioned doing some 10-minute play, some shorts, basically directing some shorts. Mm-hmm. And strikes me as a great way to get started. Your entire performance is no more than approximately 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a way to start learning those theater leadership skills on the way to doing a main stage production that is probably going to be 90 minutes at the least.
Yeah, you're right. They're bite-sized shots at this sort of thing. And so, the directing 10-minute plays is a great way to get started. And again, staged readings, because in staged readings, you're pretty much just focused on delivery, right? There's no blocking to-dos, very rudimentary blocking in a staged reading usually. And also, no one has to learn lines, so you don't have to worry about that. People are just standing there reading.
So when did you feel like you were ready? Did you feel like you were ready for a main stage production? And you said, "Hey, Raquel, if the show comes up," or did Raquel come to you with this show?
Yeah, she did. And I had told her that I was interested in directing. There was no formal process by which I submitted my name, but just in conversations, I had mentioned to Raquel, I'd like to try that. And so she just sort of came to me and said, "Hey, I got a great first project for you."
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So the show we're doing right now is A Christmas Carol, the live radio play.
Yep.
So this is the traditional Ebenezer Scrooge story, but it is presented as a 1945 radio play. So the audience in the theater is like the equivalent of a studio audience for a radio broadcast.
Yeah, exactly. The set is a 1945 radio studio, and they are a cast of actors who have come in, voice actors who've come in to do this radio play. And the audience is, I like to think of them as sort of voyeuristically watching this thing, because I've directed the actors not to play to the audience at all. So they're not really like a studio audience so much as they are like, it's more like watching those recent documentaries about the Beatles that have come out where, there was someone filming while they were in there recording things. And that's a little bit more of what I'm aiming for. Fingers crossed. Hopefully that comes across.
So it's kind of like a staged reading in that the cast is like 1945 radio actors. They're reading from their scripts on stage. Yeah, but they obviously have to know the material in advance. They're not cold reading it.
No.
So I guess it's a first step into being in charge of a full-blown play where you've got to do blocking, and now you've got to be concerned about everyone has to memorize their lines, and there might be scene changes, set changes.
Yeah. Because this is being done in the universe of the play, it's Christmas Eve, and they're doing this show, and so they've all just come in. They've got their scripts. You're exactly right.
I've said many times, it seems to me that most casts for our main stage productions, they're typically made of about a third to a half of people who are new to Civic. Mm-hmm. But the cast for this show is 3/4 new to performing in Civic.
At least.
You've both been in casts where, half are people that you, even if you haven't acted with them before, you know them from being in other Civic shows. And then there's a third to a half that are new that you'd be welcoming to as a fellow cast member. But in this show, the majority of them are new to our theater. What's that like as a leader of the production, as stage manager?
Oh my gosh, it's been wonderful. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of stage managing is watching actors grow and develop from the audition process to when they're finally on stage. Even during Clue, Clue was all returning faces to Civic, and just watching them develop their characters and, become more confident in their own acting abilities that they obviously already had was just incredible to watch. So with this cast, with so many new faces, I get a little bit teary-eyed sometimes just kind of thinking about it, you know, how nervous and how reserved some of them were at auditions and how far they've come with not only developing their characters, but learning to take direction, you know, listening to the director, being able to really bring things to life under the direction of our incredible director, Trey. And, you know, find new friendships. I've loved kind of like seeing, okay, who's going to, you know, sit next to each other as we're getting warmed up and who's going to come out of this as friends. And so I think that's always one of my favorite parts of the process when I'm behind the scenes. And so with so many new faces, seeing all those relationships develop, seeing how they're developing as actors and as people has just been like absolutely stellar to watch. I've really, really loved it. I want to give a quick shout out actually to one of our actors, Caleb, because we were pretty impressed with him at auditions.
Oh, yeah.
We were like, oh yeah, he's absolutely got to be in here. And we gave him kind of a bigger role, you know, for someone who's newer to the stage, newer to Civic. And he's just done a fantastic job with it. He's one that I really can point to and be like, watching him go from auditions to where he is now has just been incredible to watch. He's really come into his own. He's done such a fantastic job working on his accents, working on how the characters sound, because obviously there's not any physical aspect to this. It's truly just your voice bringing these characters to life. And he's just done an amazing, amazing job with that, I think.
Really has. It's kind of blown me away.
Yeah.
He's got a really great facility with his accents, and he is better. He may be better than anyone I've ever known at just taking in other people's direction and comments and making it happen. Because some of this stuff's hard. Trying to explain to someone exactly what you're after when everything is abstract is one of the tricky parts of directing and being directed. And he has never failed to figure out what I wanted and give it to me. Yeah, he's talented in a lot of ways.
And you mentioned something about directing and being directed and coming up. What I'm thinking about is we have many different characters played by the same individual actors in this show. So there's, I don't know how many, there's 24 different characters in the play, but we don't have 24 actors.
Yeah.
So almost all of our voices, or is it every one of our voices? Almost all of our voices.
All of our voices have more than one character.
Yes.
Have more than one character.
Even Bill Knapp, who's playing Ebenezer Scrooge, also does the storyteller at the beginning and end of the.
And I love that moment when he changes his voice from storyteller into Ebenezer.
Yeah.
That's such a fun transition. He does it's so fun to listen to every single time.
It really is. There are 3 people in that scene who change their voice as they're talking from their what we call the mid-Atlantic mid-Atlantic transatlantic 1945 radio voice into an accent, whether it's received British pronunciation or Cockney or whatever. Brian and Caleb all do that too, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, but Bill does a great job of going from this nice, smooth sort of transatlantic accent into this 19th century Ebenezer Scrooge voice. The transition is slow and it's cool to hear. Yeah.
Speaking of accents, one of our longtime Civic contributors is Rachel Wallace, and she's in this show, but she's, in addition to being an actor in the play, she has been serving as the production's accents. What do you call it?
Dialect coach.
Dialect coach.
Dialect coach, yeah.
Yeah.
And Rachel is fantastic at that.
Isn't she?
Yeah, I had her when I directed The Amazing Maurice last season. I knew that I wanted our actors to have British accents, which, a lot of kids are really quick at picking up on accents, but I was like, I know how to do one, but I don't know how to teach one. So Rachel, please be a part of this for me and teach these kids how to do a British accent. And they all came out of it with pretty spectacular accents because of the work that she did with them. So I was really glad that she was able to do that for A Christmas Carol as well, because she has done a phenomenal job really getting these actors to the point of sounding like not quite naturally have the accents. I think it's harder to do that, but at least helping them find those different voices so that they can sound different and sound authentic.
Yeah.
So did you recruit Rachel to this production, or was she going to audition anyway? Or did she audition and then you said, oh, you auditioned? Okay, A, we want to cast you. B, we want you to be dialects coach.
Well, here's what I did. Em and I had already been talking long before auditions about who would be good for certain roles, and I was saying I'm going to need a good dialects coach, and we had agreed that Rachel would be the natural choice. So when I approached Rachel, I said, listen, I want you to be the dialects coach for this show, but I hope that doesn't mean you want audition to be in it.
Yes.
Because she is one of my very favorite actors. And I was going to say actors at Civic, but actually, frankly, very favorite actors, period.
Oh, yes. Rachel is awesome.
She's she's got an incredible stage presence. She's got so much power and range. And and discipline. She's just spectacular. And I was hoping that having her as my dialect coach wouldn't mean I couldn't have her in the cast too. And yay, she did audition.
Yes, she did.
Yes.
She is also doing just a spectacular job.
Yeah.
Amazing. I can't think of anyone else now as the Ghost of Christmas Present. Like, it's just Rachel's voice in my head anymore.
No, yeah. 2 of the roles she's playing in this show have traditionally been played by male actors. Old Joe and the Ghost of Christmas Present. But she has, I'm like you, she's made them her own to the point that they're just not going to seem right played by guys anymore.
Oh my word, Old Joe especially. That's been so hilarious to watch and listen to.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I have so loved in my years at Civic Theatre, in watching people come to our stage and just totally take over a role that might have been played by somebody entirely different in earlier productions or in the professional productions or movies, if these things have started or were once movies. I love seeing non-professional actors take over the role so much that later, if I happen to see that movie, the movie version of the play that we did, or a later production, it's like, they're just not as good as Rachel in this role, for example.
Oh yeah, I've had that experience several times with Civic shows. Just going, wow, Civics was better.
Yeah, this is the joy for me. One of the many joys of community theater is when people can discover that you don't have to be paid professionals who are making your whole life about this. You can just step into this for a couple or a few months, whether backstage or whether in an acting role, and be so good at it that you become that character in the audience's mind forever. Always to be compared to this character's performance.
Yeah. And I feel like in a community theater like this, you have a certain advantage over the professional actors on the screen that you see because you're right there.
Yes.
The audience is seeing you right there in front of them. And there's a personal connection, even if you don't know one another and never actually meet, there's still an actual personal connection there. And
another unique thing about this particular performance, A Christmas Carol, the live radio play, Trey, for your first experience as directing a main stage production, is that this cast is all ages. We have, it's not just an adult performance, but this show calls for child actors as well. And we have some fantastic kids part of this performance. Grady is awesome. Lux is amazing. Clara is adorable.
Oh my word, little spitfire of a girl.
Yeah, she is. She is way too smart.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. I don't know. I'd never met any of these 3 young people and before auditions, and they were just amazing.
And this is all their first time at Civic, right?
I believe
think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Grady has experience with Civic just because of his brother Nolan, but I don't remember ever seeing Grady on stage. I don't know if he's ever done any classes. I think this might be his first true Civic experience.
Yeah. And he owns it.
Yeah.
He all 3 of them. We got so lucky in auditions with young people. We got lots of really good people auditioning.
It was a hard decision for casting our children, for sure.
Grady is paired with Rose as his onstage sister.
Yes. Yep.
And Clara and Lux are almost always paired together. They usually sit together when they're not at the mic, but even their characters are often doing these together at the mics.
Yep.
But then Clara in particular she plays Tiny Tim.
Yes.
So she has many roles by herself up at the microphone. She's singing a cappella, which is not an easy thing to do at any age.
No, it is not.
And she just owns it. She has this voice. I believe she's 11, but her character is younger.
Yeah.
And it's natural to her. She's able to play this younger character quite authentically.
Oh, yeah.
And sing beautifully in this adorable, precocious, if a good word to say.
Yeah, it is absolutely.
Wait, she's amazing, and all of these younger people, I hope that they find their way back to our stage.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Lux comes out as Fan, as
Yes.
Ebenezer Scrooge's younger sister from their childhood, and the scene with Lux and Bill is really very touching.
Yeah.
They both come to that with a great deal of sensitivity, and Lux is just so excited as Fan. It's a sad story, really, about Scrooge and his sister, and they display so much affection for each other in these roles that the audience knows that there's sadness there that the characters don't know about at the time that they're speaking in the past, and it makes the scene so poignant. Anyway, anything further would be a spoiler, but
yes. Lux does a fantastic job being that excited little sister who is so happy to see her big brother and take him home. It's honestly kind of heartwarming to watch them.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously, many people have seen one or another version of A Christmas Carol, whether on stage or a film version of it. My question for either of you is, even if you know the traditional Ebenezer Scrooge story, why should you come to our performance? As the radio play version, what do we present? Why should there be butts in our seats?
For me, even though it is a very familiar story, and it's one that I grew up just absolutely loving, there are elements in this radio play that I think are not in other stories. I mean, we've got characters that I really don't remember seeing in any other adaptation, especially the Ghost of Christmas Present part. You know, there's people in the streets that we don't traditionally see as part of the story, but they're here in this show to really help bring it to life because it is an audio drama. You can't have the visual aspect of just, passing along on the street, seeing people in their Christmas attire, having Christmas fun. You need to bring some elements in that people can actually listen to.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun, and honestly, I think unique to our show that there are some characters that you just don't see in other adaptations that are incredibly important to telling the story because they're part of that kind of what you would traditionally see as kind of the background in a movie or the background in a play are brought forward to become their own characters.
Yeah, exactly. Adaptation as an art form is, in my mind, really fascinating because every time you adapt something, you necessarily highlight other aspects of it than other forms do. So, for example, as a radio play, Em was just alluding to, I don't think this will be much of a spoiler because, again, everybody knows this story, at least in the Anglosphere. And there's a crucial point in most productions of this play/movie where at the end, when we're looking at the future and Ebenezer Scrooge, that everyone's talking about this hated person who's died and he doesn't know who it is, and finally we see him see the tombstone with his name on it and he's like, no, well, you can't do that in a radio play because no one can see the tombstone. So the adapter had to introduce a character. So whenever you do something like that, you bring out aspects that were actually there that just don't get highlighted in other forms of the same piece of work.
Yeah, we can't present it as a visual. We can't have the camera focus on the tombstone, as you said.
Yeah.
So, I like that because I guess that makes, even in a familiar story like A Christmas Carol, this makes many surprises for the audience throughout the hour and a half that they're with us.
Right. Even though the radio play is very faithful to the original Dickens story, there are certain things that have to be done because it's a radio. That moment when he finds out that it's him who's died, it's himself. You could narrate, Ebenezer Scrooge looked down and saw a gravestone with his own name. That's going to lose so much impact, right? You just have, as an adapter, what's our adapter's name?
Philip Grecian.
Philip Grecian, thank you.
John and I both know that very well.
I've had to learn, yes.
Yes. Philip Grecian has had to do things differently from his original. With
the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, like Trey was saying, that moment with the tombstone, I almost like our version better because, in traditional adaptations where you see the tombstone, it's like very heavy hitting for you to see that as well. Whereas, we've got, this is a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but because we can't just narrate that, we have someone tell Scrooge to his face that he's the one who died, and this character who is telling him is just very flippant about it.
Because he doesn't know that he's talking to Scrooge.
Yeah, he doesn't know that he's talking to Scrooge, and again, Scrooge was this kind of hated person that he's like, well, I can't believe you don't know this, it's Ebenezer Scrooge, and it hits different because you see, like, it does not matter to this other person. It really hits harder that people are almost glad that he's gone. They just don't care. But to Scrooge, it is this, huge revelation. It's life-shattering. It's really kind of that final nail in the coffin that causes him to change. And for this person, it's just a Tuesday. It's just a Tuesday for this other character.
Yeah. What hits hard for you out of this story? Whether it's the traditional story or this adaptation, is there anything about your participation, Em as stage manager, Trey as director, in this production? Is there anything that's hitting hard for you?
Yeah, I'm just so lucky to be able to be doing this now with these people. If it had been next year, a lot of these people might not have been available. If it had been last year, same thing. It just, on the surface, that seems trivial because, of course, everything that you do is suspended in time, and it's going to happen at some time. But still, I'm getting to work with all these people on a production that we all find exciting, and I just feel fortunate.
As your first main stage show as director, I don't know, maybe you feel like you've lucked into having this cast.
Yeah.
Their availability and everything you just said.
Yeah.
But it's still a whole confluence of things. Each of you has played a big role in the last however many years, I'll just say the last decade, in helping to build the name that I think our theater has a good name and a good reputation in this town as a place of quality entertainment, wholesome entertainment, great bang for your buck to buy a ticket to come see one of our shows. Come early for have a drink or hors d'oeuvres on opening night, and then see fellow community members on our stage entertain you and let you escape from the world. So I don't know. To me, it's more than just lucking into this great cast.
Sure.
To me, it's you had a part in building the theater into what it is today, such that we can attract people who want to be part of it. Even in a production like this, where 3/4 of them happen to be new to our theater.
One of the lucky things about this show is, when you're first reading a play and you're going to be directing, you naturally just start sticking people's faces into these roles, people that you know.
Yes.
I had this show practically, the large roles largely cast in my mind. When I found that none of my stalwarts were going to be available, I was a little bit crushed, And then I saw these auditions, and there were all these people I'd never met before who were just so good.
Yeah.
I just feel lucky.
You can take pride in the fact that these people, again, as I've harped on, 3/4 of which are new to Civic Theatre, now you have been the shepherd as director into what we do here, into this art form that we do.
Well, that is a very kind way to say to me what I've been. They've just been amazing.
I definitely think giving people the chance that they deserve, because again, we have a lot of new faces, and like Trey said, a lot of our kind of what you would consider Civic regulars were just not able to audition for this show because it's a holiday show for one, so a lot of people end up with plans around the end of the year. I know, like, there were some people who were, I'm just going to be out of town that weekend. It only runs for one weekend and I just don't have the time for it. So having so many new people show up at auditions, that's kind of scary. I can't lie. That is very scary as part of the production team, because can you trust these people? Are they going to take direction well? Is what they're giving you at auditions all that you're going to get from them? You're really truly taking a risk and taking a chance on these people, and every single one of our cast members has delivered and more. So I've always been open to new people in Civic, because obviously we all had to start somewhere. But I was always of the mind that it's the bigger shows where you really bring in the new people, because you can put them in ensemble roles, you can put them into stuff that does still matter to the stage. But if one or two people don't come through how you hope, it's not going to affect the true full integrity of the story of the show. Whereas this show, we really are relying on every single person in the cast to bring these characters to life and make this a great experience for the audience. And so, like I said, again, that's kind of scary when you've got a lot of new faces, but they've absolutely assuaged those fears for me, at least. I'm sure for Trey as well.
Yeah.
And
they're delivering.
They are
really
absolutely delivering on what we've asked of them. And so that, I think, is something I'm absolutely going to take with me the next time I'm part of a casting process, that yes, it is scary, but the reward really can outweigh the risk a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question for you, John.
Okay.
What's it like being on stage?
Yeah!
Oh.
This is your first time on stage, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. You guys have made me feel very comfortable. I'm really grateful, actually, to both of you for this opportunity. So I'm playing the announcer. And in all the years that I've been part of Civic Productions as sound designer, sound engineer, I have never really sought to be in an onstage role. I never felt like I was going to say no if something came up, but I have no experience at acting. I love theater. It's part of me, obviously.
Yeah.
I get to be up there and watch it from the
on
booth,
high, yeah.
from on high, and I know that sound and lights and costumes and all of the tech roles are vital to every production. But I never sought to be an actor, so I'm really grateful to both of you for thinking of me for this role. In part because I didn't have to learn to be an actor for this role. I'm the announcer in a radio play.
Yeah, that's kind of your day job, isn't it?
Well, I have worked in radio before. I worked for 10 years in commercial radio. I really loved it. And obviously, I have done voice work for our productions before.
Oh, yeah.
There have been several shows where I've been either pre-recorded or doing a live role, but from the booth.
Yeah.
Basically the equivalent of a radio announcer. So this was a fantastic way to get me on stage, and you've both made me feel very at home there.
Good.
Well, and I'm grateful to you. When I first had the idea of having you on stage, I first asked Raquel because I felt pretty sure you wouldn't do it. I had this idea in my mind that you were going to go, that's not what I do.
I'm grateful to the whole cast because they were so accepting and saying, okay, you're involved in this other role. And then I came into rehearsals and said, hi, everybody, I'm back. Do you remember me? I saw you at the table read,
yeah.
but I haven't seen you since. And I'm grateful to all of you for keeping this seat warm and just letting me come in. I also want to specifically call out Quentin.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Who is the character who's in the sound booth with me. He's the sound in the play. He's the sound effects guy. He doesn't have any spoken lines. He's just the sound effects guy. So he basically, for all of the weeks that the rest of the cast was in rehearsal, and before we were in the space on stage and actually on our set, he was just making up sound effects either with his voice or with the chairs in the basement of the church that we rehearse in. He's there the whole time, and he really is the lead sound designer for this production.
This show,
I am very grateful to Quentin that he's basically showed me the ropes on stage for what we're doing there with live sound effects in this play.
Quentin has been amazing.
He's been crucial to this process. I remember one of our first rehearsals where he kind of brought in a bunch of his own stuff and was just playing around with sound effects, and it was like, holy crap. It was always kind of abstract in our minds of, on stage Foley work. Don't really know how that's going to work because neither of us really have experience in that. And he just absolutely took that and ran with it. And he's done such an amazing job at bringing that part of the show to life, which is, for the audience, some of the most interesting part of the show because they get to watch that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've ever seen footage of an early to mid 20th century radio play where they're doing all the sound effects live there with little devices to make different noises, wriggling paper into the microphone for fire crackling, and Quentin's been doing all of that, and a lot of these effects had to be built
Yes,
which
I want to
takes
give a shout
time.
out to Craig Campbell.
Oh my
Craig
gosh,
Campbell, exactly.
From Civic's team. Craig is one of our carpenters, set builders, and so forth. And you guys, or was it Rachel, recruited Craig? He's been doing work for every show this season.
Yes.
He's a professional carpenter, and he's very good at his
started
job.
with Clue because Rachel was in Clue and knew, hey, my partner Craig would probably be really interested in a lot of this. And a lot of the weird stuff that we had to build for Clue, he had a massive hand in because he just loves to figure out stuff like that.
Yeah. So a little behind the scenes with sound design. So being a sound designer for our traditional productions, not the live radio play, right, is a mix of recording things or sourcing sounds from online somewhere that I can then edit, sounds that we can get the rights to, and then I can edit together into what I hear in my mind for what the sound should be that the script needs. But as a live radio play in 1945, there are no pre-recorded sounds. They, as you said, Em, all the sounds are delivered with practical objects.
Yeah.
I think the sound that is used more than anything in this show is just wind noises. The script calls for like 15 or 20 different times calls for wind noises. Okay, next page, wind noise. Page after that, 3 times wind noise. At first, honestly, I was thinking, okay, we're just going to have 1 or 2 people at microphones doing or something to that effect, right? And I thought, okay, but then I realized if there was wind once in the production, maybe we can get away with that.
Right.
But I thought, no, we've got to be authentic. So I started looking up, how did they do wind noises?
Yeah.
And I discovered there's a device that I believe the proper name for it is an aliophone.
Okay.
A-E-L-I-O phone. Aliophone, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But it's more commonly referred to as a wind machine.
Yeah.
Right.
It is this fairly large round drum with a handle on the end going through the axis. And then on top of the drum, and this thing is it's about 2 feet in
Something like
in
that,
diameter.
Yeah.
And there's wood slats on top of the drum, spaced every couple of inches, or wood blocks, basically. And then laid over the top of the spinning drum is a piece of canvas. And spinning it, the drum makes these slats across the top of the drum rub up against the canvas. And then when you just change the rate at which you're spinning the drum, it makes what sounds like wind.
Yeah.
So again, this is all in the context of giving a shout out, a hearty thanks to Craig Campbell, who he said he would build this stuff for us.
Yeah.
And when I saw this aliophone online, I immediately knew that this is going to be hours of work for somebody. The first of these builds that Craig delivered to us. And it had to have taken him at least a day to build this thing.
At least.
Because I
I
also didn't have any instructions that said you need something exactly this size and cut these slats. I basically sent him some videos, and he delivered us a wind machine.
Wait, he didn't even have plans for that?
There were no plans. He had to figure it out on his own.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Basically,
I had no idea.
he had to come up with the sizes. I don't think any of the materials that I delivered him actually had step-by-step instructions. He's
incredible.
Absolutely delivered, and he spent many hours just on this one machine. And he's also delivering us a Foley door, which is a full-size door, but built in miniature that we can open and close as a set piece in the sound booth
With
area.
little latches on it.
He's delivering us that.
Yeah. It's
Fantastic
amazing.
team.
Yeah.
I was glad I remembered to cover Craig and all the work that he's done for this show.
Thank you for remembering that and for bringing up Quentin.
Yes.
Is there anybody else that we should shout out about this production?
Oh, my word.
I know
Colton. Oh, my gosh. Colton. He's one. I've never worked with him. We were looking for a costume designer, and Renee, again, kind of one of our Civic stalwarts, does a lot of costume design for Civic.
Renee Kaysen.
Renee Kaysen. Yeah, Colton's been absolutely incredible. I've loved everything that has been pulled. I know Renee had like a huge hand in a lot of that, but Colton's been there, at rehearsals now. If an actor has a question, I can be like, I know Colton's out in the lobby right now, so if you go ask him, I bet you that he has an answer. And it's such a relief to have those people on your design team that you're like, no, I know that they have this covered.
Thinking along those lines, also Sage and Phoenix at TJ Nutt are going to be doing the hair for this show because it's the 1940s, and the women especially, those hairstyles are not something that most of us are used to doing, and it's important. And they're coming in to take charge of that and make sure that all the women's hair is on point.
Last question, what's next, do you think, for each of you in Civic?
I'll be stage managing Fun Home in the spring, so our spring musical directed by TJ Rosa. I'm so excited to be a part of that team. We've already been calling ourselves the Dream Team because it's TJ Rosa, Liam Kelly, Rachel Young, Josh DeJarle, and me are all part of that production team. And it's just going to be incredible to work with all of them. They're such fantastic people. But I already know next season I'll be stage managing a couple shows. I'm going to stage manage the youth musical. I'm not going to say any names. I will say I'm going to stage manage the youth musical, and then I'll also be stage managing a youth play. So I'm hoping maybe there's something in the fall part of the season that I can audition for. But I'm very, very excited to be stage managing with a couple of fantastic directors.
Excellent. Trey, let me ask you that question about just without specifics, because we don't know next season's schedule.
Right.
We have, obviously Civic staff is working on that, but nothing is public yet. So there's minor spoilers. Hey, we're going to have a youth musical next year. That's not too much of a spoiler. That's excellent. Just about genre. So you've your first main stage as director is this radio play.
Yeah.
Now that you've done this radio play, which, as you mentioned, it's just delivered from script. There's not, you don't have to worry about blocking or choreo. Is there a particular genre you'd like to direct maybe next year or the year after?
Oh, that's a good question. I would like to direct a comedy at some point.
I was hoping you'd say that.
I have been fortunate to act in several comedies at Civic and have sort of, by that device, managed to sit at the feet of some really good comedic directors. So I feel like I would have a good group of people to go to with questions.
I'd love to see you teach physical comedy. Is that possible?
That would be fun.
Or is that just instinctual? I don't know if you can teach it. If anyone could, you could.
There are things that you can teach about just about anything, and some things people just have to get. But yeah, I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I'd love to do it. It'd be fun.
I think a lot of it is just kind of stage combat that you're putting into a comedic sense, you know, exaggerating the falls, exaggerating, the swipes at each other. And
yeah, it's true. So the part that you can teach is the safety part.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate to have done quite a bit of stage combat training and that sort of thing. Had that training, not performed it myself.
I would love to see you as director for some of our theater's best comedic actors, whether, for example, comedy through everything he does, Martin Fernandez. I'd love to see you as director. Daniel Condrey. He's another one. Physical comedy comes so naturally to him, and he is so funny.
Yeah. No, that would be ridiculous fun. Martin Fernandez has been the funniest man alive for a really long time. What would I have to tell him? It would be fun. I'd like that.
All the carols are playing, the silver bells are ringing, all the people are saying Christmas time is here, and all of that's fine, I know, hanging lights up in the snow, but there's one thing I just want to tell you, your love shines it brighter than them all. I don't need falling snow, and I don't need a Christmas tree. I don't need mistletoe or lights or fancy things. You could take every gift, and I would still be good. Oh, my Christmas just ain't Christmas without you.
Trey Gordon and M. Miller. A Christmas Carol, the live radio play, runs from December 11th through the 14th, 2025. Tickets are available on our website now, LafayetteCivic.org. Music for this podcast is licensed by Audio. That's AUDIIO.com. I'm John O. Thanks for listening, and happy holidays. The Civic Theatre Show is presented by Civic Theatre of Greater Lafayette, Indiana. See yourself here.